Good afternoon, Jeffrey Combs. Tuesday, more heart than talent. Used to be the More Heart Than Talent Mindset Call. It's the Golden Mastermind Podcast. Good to be here with you. For many, many years, 19 years, it was the More Heart Than Talent Mindset Call. Jared, good to see you this afternoon. And I believe you are receiving the benefits of letting go of the payoff. So if you're here with me this afternoon, welcome. Powder blue and gold, two of my favorite colors. Breathe, release, and let go. Jared, awesome to see you here this afternoon. Ricky, good to see you this afternoon. Nadine, good to see you. Good to see all of you here this afternoon. If you're in Josh Waxman's culture, I commend you for being here this afternoon. Josh is an exceptional leader, mentor, leader grower. And if you're in his culture, I am honored to be here with you. Jose Andres, good to see you. And so good reconnecting with you, Jose. Long time client and friend in my backyard, Manteca, California. David Hammer, thank you for coming to Millionaire Blueprint, rehiring me to be your coach for an ongoing year. And Josh Waxman, thank you for all the endorsements and the teammates that you are manifesting. So thank you very much. Let's move into the inspirational portion of today's Facebook Live. We are covering this afternoon one of my favorite topics is called finding flow. So flow is prospero, or in the flow. Prosperity in Latin is the term prospero, or in the flow. And then the words that are around that term flow, we're looking at deserve. So deserve is da servier, day of service, and to be of service, not serving. You're not a waiter, waitress. And what you're bringing is service and value to the marketplace, and you bring that through your knowledge that you learn, through the products, services, benefits, and features that you are selling and marketing, the financial literacy and education that you're bringing to the American and world populace, the leadership that you bring, and then in isolated incidents, you are learning to be a mentor. As a leader grower, you also learn to mentor individual people who merit additional time. And that's part of being a leader grower. And thank you, very good, Ryan. There's a tremendous amount of people. And my best wishes to Mrs. Josh Waxman, Mrs. Future Josh Waxman, Yuritsa Cruz. If you're being mentored by Yuritsa, she is TT, top tier, a woman who has my highest endorsement, who in her 20s is manifested tremendous prosperity and reciprocity. I spent 2 days with Yuritsa this last weekend, and I want to give her the credit that she deserves. She's been my client in her second year of coaching, so thank you very much. Thank all of you for being here this afternoon. Topic for today's Facebook Live is finding flow. So flow means that you're letting go of resistance, and resistance is inflexibility. When you're flexible, you're in the flow. You can adapt and adjust. You're in the middle of the river. You're flowing down, and on each side of the river is a bank, and that's a place. That's a French term, banque. It's where you will store your assets, or you'll move them away from those assets and find assets that are much more appreciable. And for those of you who are learning the term financial literacy, and you're learning terms about money that aren't typically learned in most places, congratulations, because you're really taking yourself and your life to higher levels of consciousness. And the more that you understand how to scale that map of consciousness, how to go up the scale of it, of consciousness, the more that you're aware, the more you understand, the more you know, the more you trust, the higher your belief in God and self, the higher you have this belief, then you will not fail. Because when you commit, you can't uncommit when you've committed. So when you commit and your word is law, you will not fail. You will not be denied. So anxiety, fear, and doubt will rob you of the opportunity to be in flow. So to be in the hands-free zone, or the zone, as it said, the zone is where it's effortless ease. You teach yourself to let go specifically of the word doubt. Because doubt is what will keep you safe and disappointed. Doubt is a duality word. Doubt keeps you in and out at the same time. It keeps you going forward and backward at the same time. It keeps you procrastinating and avoiding. It keeps you safe and disappointed. So it's a duality word. And doubt is your foot's on the dock and your foot's on the boat. you're paralyzed. You're stuck right where you are in doubt. And doubt is the analytical, egoic mind that processes, thinks. So in energy goes clockwise. In anxiety, fear, and doubt, your energy is going counterclockwise. So in your body are vortex points. There's 7 points of your body called chakras. And the chakras in your body, you want them all going clockwise. They're in flow. The 7 points of your body, and one of the most important is your crown. That's where you connect with Source or God, and you want that to be wide open. That's also the pineal gland. And so you have that open. You have that open to receive, open to ask, open to opportunities. But when you're in doubt, you're closed, you're shut down, you're inflexible, you're in fight or flight, you're overwhelmed, you're analyzing, you're thinking, you're processing. And for you to be in a sales conversation, to be in that conversation, you're listening, you're hearing what's meant, not said. You're open to receive. But if you're not in an open state, then you're going to be thinking, processing, closed down, and then you'll sabotage yourself to fulfill your feelings. The flow that you're seeking comes from letting go, so that you're not thinking, analyzing, trying to figure it out. You're trusting, and in trust, you're trusting Source, which is God. You're trusting self. You trust your leaders. You trust the process, and that's a whole state of flow right there. It's like riding a horse with no saddle. You're riding a horse with no saddle and bridle. I've done it before, and I know what it's like. I mean, it's complete trust. You're on a large animal, and you have to be able to guide that animal, and you're guiding that animal without talking to that animal. It's all between you and that animal. It's between you and that animal and Source. That's flow. Flow is the effortless ease where it comes to you without, it comes because of the effort you've devoted to it. The flow is a process of the execution. So preparation and execution in a relaxed body and relaxed energy creates flow. Preparation, when you're in force, will create a counter force called resistance. And this is when you'll meet the prospects who don't buy from you frequently, over and over. And you have a day where you have these great presentations and no one buys. And you have to be able to accept that as part of the flow. But if you turn it into a story, then it can stretch itself out. And what was a flow originally now becomes resistance. Now you start to pressure yourself. You start to press. You're in poverty consciousness, lack, scarcity. And you're casting your burden on people in the universe. So you want to be able to cast your burden to Christ. You cast your burden to God. You cast the burden to the Christ within, because you are learning to let go, which is the separation from the feelings and the events that shape them. To be in flow, you have to have ice in your veins. And it means that you don't get rattled easily. You don't get taken off course easily. You put so much repetition and experience into letting go. You're mastering the skill of letting go. And as you master that skill of letting go, you don't let situations outside of you affect you inside of you as frequently. Because you are human, you will experience moments of relapse. You will experience lapse in judgment. You will create errors in judgment, as the great Jim Rohn used to say. But if you're living in flow, you'll be able to address it quickly, neutralize it, pick yourself up, and be back in flow. Flow is the opportune state of higher consciousness to live and be in. You don't just do it in business, you do it in your life. It means you're smooth, you have ice in your veins, you're as cool as the other side of the pillow. You're sitting on the plane while everyone else is just coming unraveled because the plane is late. You're sitting there taking long, deep breaths, calling the 1K desk of United, making arrangements to get on the best flight, next flight in first class, because you're in flow. And in flow, your reticular activating system, which is driven by your amygdala, a pea-sized gland that is the emotional engine that searches for feelings. And as you begin to let go of feelings of not being good enough, feelings of lack, and you now begin to improve those feelings of love, joy, bliss, and you're living in awareness, understanding, and knowing. You're trusting Source and God more frequently, and you're able to be intuition, and you're an extrasensory perception in that you're flowing, because you know you were chosen for these times. You know that you have the courage to persevere. You know that you can lead people to the land of promise. You know that you will persevere. You know that you will thrive. You will next level it. So this is all based on your belief. And so your belief is either disbelief, not of belief, or your belief is certainty. Now you're going to waver at times because some of this is new to you. If you're 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 30, 35, 44, whatever it is, your belief is your sense of certainty or your sense of uncertainty. And as your belief is like this, is like it's solid and you are clear and you have conviction and you will not be denied. In that state of energy, that is called posture. People feel that and they feel that flow. The objective for you is to be, as I said, as cool as the other side of the pillow. That was a Stuart Scott quote from ESPN back in the 2000s. That was one of his quotes. He also used to say it must be jam because jelly don't shake like that. That means that the athlete had moves, and that's what flow is. An athlete that has moves and can fake an opponent out through behind the back dribbles, between the leg dribbles, through a pull-up, post-up jump shot, through an in-out slant pattern, through a post pattern, a football term, or any multitude of situations, or a pole vaulter who can pole vault 20 feet, or a high jumper who can high jump 7 feet, 7 inches. I mean, it's all flow. It's the poetry. Or an ice skater, a world-renowned ice skater who's prepared and executed since they were a child. Or anyone who lives in a state of mastery, you want to be able to take that mastery to your life. So that mastery that you live in is also called fifth or sixth gear. It's a different gear in the gearbox. And it's also called overdrive. In cars that were established in the 50s, there was a gear called 3 on the tree. The 3 on the tree was a transmission that was on the steering column. I grew up driving one. My father had a 1951 Mercury. And I learned how to drive a 3 on the tree. And the 4th gear was actually called overdrive. So it's the overdrive in a gearbox is where the engine is humming at optimum performance, optimum speed. Everything is in alignment. So flow is alignment. That's what you're in flow. Flow is the manifestation. The manifest of a ship is the record, and it's charting the course. It's a record of the course that you're on, and that's what the manifestation is. For those of you who followed the great Jordan Maxwell, and I highly recommend that you follow him. Jordan Maxwell is amazing. He wrote He wrote the book Matrix of Power, a great book, and it's an absolutely amazing. If you can find him on a lot of the truthers are replaying a lot of his old content from the 90s. Jordan Maxwell, and he covers it in maritime law. Sergeant Robert Horton, also on YouTube, has a channel on maritime law, and if you look these up, it's the course. It's how water and manifests destiny, and it all comes together, and it'll click for you as you have a better understanding of what it all means. It's very deep. It's down the rabbit hole, and will assist you to understand what flow means. Flow is the water. Now, I live in Central California, so if I want to go to Lake Tahoe, on the way to Lake Tahoe, on 88 or Highway 80 on the way to Lake Tahoe. So I live in Stockton, California. It's about a 2 hour and 15-minute drive. And I'll end up at South Lake Tahoe. On that trip, I'm gonna drive right along the American River. It's where gold was discovered in Sutter Creek. It's one of the most beautiful rivers in California. And if you get out of your car, you can hear that river. And you hear that river sound. And if you've ever been in any of the rivers in Montana and any of the places like this, or you've ever been to the Yellowstone River in Wyoming or Montana, which I have, and you just sit there on the bank of the river, you're watching that river flow on the bank. Or if you've ever been to Oak Creek in Sedona, which I have, and you're on a Red Rock Peak, which I've been there, and if you've ever been to places in Utah or any river, I grew up close to the Missouri River, and I've also been on the Mississippi River, and they flow north to south like that, and they flow down, and they empty out in the Gulf of Mexico, both those rivers. And then the headwaters are up in Great Forks, Montana, which Jared has probably been there, is on today's, and I've been there. I went out close to those rocks that Lewis and Clark walked across. So in that state of nature, when you're listening to the water, the ripple of the water, it's absolute quiet, and you hear everything that's going on in the world, in nature. You're hearing the birds, you hear the birds call, you hear ducks, you hear geese, and most importantly, you're hearing that water, you're hearing the flow, the ripple of the water. And in that state of consciousness, unconsciousness, that is peace. So Jared just said he did a lot of fly fishing. So the same situation. If you ever fly fished in the water, you're standing right in the flow of the water. I mean, that's what flow is. You want to find that flow. Flow, in my definition, is the effortless ease where people, opportunities, situation, prosperity, and reciprocity comes to you because you're the energy, you're the source. God is your source to you, and you're that source to other mankind. But if you're in anxiety, fear, and doubt, if you're overwhelmed, if you're addicted to a set of feelings, if you're addicted to marijuana or food or any other multitude of situations, or if you're addicted to your device and you're being trauma-based mind controlled and you're still in that matrix and you're stepping out of their matrix and you're in your own matrix of power. That was Jordan Maxwell's book. And if you learn to get off that black and white chessboard and learn to operate in the flow of life, these next 2 years can absolutely be your manifestation. And the economy is shifting right now. The Federal Reserve is printing money. Those of you who are in infant banking, I am assuming you know what that means. And so if the Fed is printing money, you want to be in the flow of that. Reciprocity, prosperity, as interest rates lower, as businesses start to flow again, as houses begin to move in Florida. Houses have to move in Florida right now, immediately, for the American populace to have faith in the economy. Faith in the economy also can assist the flow, but faith in yourself is what's the most important, is that you believe that you're capable, that you're good enough, that you can create your prosperity one day at a time by the vehicle that you've chosen. And if you don't have a vehicle, find someone who has one. Or be creative and create your own business, your ideas, your creativity, your innovation. I was in a direct sales business for 10 years. I failed in several companies. At the end of my career, though, I found flow in a business where I was $100,000 in credit card debt at the end of 1996. I went to Los Angeles, California for Christmas to visit a friend. I had no money and I had nowhere to go. And I asked a woman that was once a friend of mine if I could come to West LA and get my thoughts together. I wanted to go to Malibu. I wanted to go to the beach up by Pepperdine. I wanted to get my feet in the sand. I wanted to really just to pray to God up there. I was clean and sober 9 years at the time. And so I stayed in a Howard Johnson hotel on Little Santa Monica for $75 back in the day. And I stayed there with my friend David Brennan, and we walked the beach of Malibu, and I went to an AM/PM mini mart on the day after Christmas. And back in that time frame, they had newspapers called the USA Today. And it was a colored newspaper. A lot of the photos were in color, and it was printed by Gannett. And in that era, if you were a network marketer, the sports page had business opportunities in the back of the sports page back in the day. So that newspaper was a Monday through Friday Gannett production, which I believe was the Randolph William Hearst production. That was all the origin of it. And I answered a newspaper ad that said, I refuse to let you fail. And that was the caption. And I answered that ad, not knowing that ad would be an ad that was completely changed my life. The man who put that ad in the paper, his name was T.C. Bradley. I became very good friends with him. He's a man of God, a Christian, a minister. He now owns his own brand called God Made Millionaire. You can look him up. I became very good friends with him. He was a brand new to the industry, and I was a 9-year veteran. I came into that organization, and I went from $100,000 in credit card debt in December of 1996 to a gross the next year of $462,000. That was 1 year. That means timing. I was in the right place at the right time. I recognized it. I had a tiny little apartment in Stockton, California. I had a beat up Honda that the paint was faded, and I was focused. I was absolutely focused. When I first started listening to the culture of this group that I was joining, I knew I was in the right place at the right time. These were committed patriots who absolutely had a commitment. They had a vision, and they had a model that I wasn't familiar with. And so that was the age of conference calls, and I grasped that like that. I'm like, whoa. I knew I was in the flow, and I had my first 6-figure month in 6 months. But it wasn't the 6 months, it was the 8 years prior. It was all the 8 years that allowed that 6 months to happen. Those are called dues. And you have to be able to be in a position to pay your dues. You're learning to pay the price without knowing the cost. That's blind faith. And it's important that you buy into that blind faith, because if you don't, you'll continue to doubt the whole process. It's so important that you, like David just said, when you know, you know. And thank you, David, for your contribution. For those of you who have attended Millionaire Blueprint, I will be hosting another one in July with Josh Waxman and Lynn Morey. And Josh Waxman and I will be doing an event in Jacksonville, Florida. Scott Fellaini is going to be our host. Josh and I will let you know the date, and we're going to crush it. And there's a possibility Josh and I might do a couple more events, but it's going to be amazing this year of 2025. Take your hand and look over the horizon line. It's called the vanishing point. Look out there as far as you can see and see your dream. It's right out there. It's waiting for you, baby. It's right out there. Just believe it. It's so important that you step into your power and you believe your sense of certainty. Suzanne, good to see you. Amber, good to see you. All of you, I'm deeply honored to have been your coach. So if I didn't mention your name, forgive me. I saw David Johnson. Thank you, David. David, I can't wait to see you. Dave Johnson, I want to give Dave the credibility that he deserves. Dave is a pioneer of the network marketing direct sales industry. I was his coach in the 2000s. He is one of the top income earners in the history of direct sales and network marketing. Both Josh and I know him. He's good friends of both of us. I've had the privilege of being Dave's coach many years. Dave is just a master at understanding product developments, and is very, very skilled when it comes to understanding heavy metal detox. And he's definitely a top tier professional. I want to thank all of you. Amber Schiff is also an amazing entrepreneur. Amber, single mom, is crushing it. Amber, so honored to be your coach. And for those of you who haven't followed Lynn Morey, Lynn is in her breakout year. Oh my God, she was doing amazing book signing over the weekend. So look forward to having a great, prosperous year. We have a couple more weeks here in 2024. So let's go out in an absolute flow, all of us. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen. Have a great afternoon.